1968. Thomas Terren was thrust into a dramatic confrontation with the police, caught in the act of a failed assassination attempt on a prominent Jewish figure in Mississippi. This event led to a 30-year prison sentence, but what came next was unexpected. This is what really happens to KKK members in prison. Number 7. Dylann Roof.
Authorities in Charleston, South Carolina say a fellow inmate assaulted the suspect in the deadly Charleston church shooting. Charleston County officials say the assault on Dylann Roof happened outside his cell this morning.
2015, a young man named Dylann Roof, only 21 years old, shocked the nation. On June 17th in Charleston, South Carolina, Roof walked into the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church during a Bible study session and unleashed terror, claiming the lives of 9 African Americans. Roof, born in Columbia, South Carolina, had a troubled childhood marked by divorce and a fascination with white supremacist beliefs. Despite numerous schools and warning signs, his disturbing views took a backseat as he blended into society, his dangerous thoughts unnoticed or underestimated by those around him. Before the attack, Roof's life was a series of red flags, dropped out of school, was arrested for drugs and trespassing, and a chilling obsession with starting a race war, a topic he brought up more than once. But it was in Charleston, a city steeped in the history of slavery, where Roof found the backdrop for his horrifying act. Using a Glock 45, Roof turned a place of worship into a scene of carnage.
Because somebody had to do something.
Aiming to ignite a race war. The aftermath was devastating, not just for the families of the victims, but for a nation confronted with the raw, unresolved tensions of race. Captured the next day in Shelby, North Carolina, Roof faced a swift justice. Photos from his room and his car, featuring a KKK hood and a Confederate flag, painted a clear picture of his motives. January 10, 2017, Roof was convicted on all counts, including 9 counts of murder, and was sentenced to death the next day. The incident didn't end there. While awaiting his sentence, Roof was attacked by a fellow inmate, Dwayne Marion Stafford, in 2016. Roof survived the attack without serious injuries and chose not to press charges, a surprising end to a violent chapter. Currently, Roof is on death row in the U.S. Penitentiary, USP Terre Haute, Indiana, a grim reminder of the cost of hatred and the ongoing struggle against racial violence. Number 6. Henry Francis Hayes. A chilling chapter from 1981 unveiled the darkness lurking beneath the surface. March 21st that year, something horrific unfolded when Henry Francis Hayes and another KKK member targeted Michael Donald, a 19-year-old African American. Their brutal actions culminated in Michael's death, his body grotesquely displayed from a tree. This heinous act wasn't random. It was steeped in racial hatred, spurred by a twisted sense of retribution linked to another case involving Josephus Anderson, an African American accused of killing a white policeman. The trial for Anderson moved to Mobile for a fair hearing, ended in a hung jury, stoking the flames of racial tension. The KKK's response was chillingly calculated. In a clandestine meeting, high-ranking Klansman Benny Jack Hayes declared a shocking call to action. If a black man could evade punishment for killing a white man, then the inverse should be permissible in their twisted view. The next day, fueled by this poisonous ideology, Henry Hayes and James Tiger Knowles roamed the streets of Mobile, armed and dangerous, looking for a black person to victimize. Michael Donald, just returning home after buying cigarettes, became their target. They deceitfully drew him in, kidnapped him at gunpoint, and took him to a secluded woods near Mobile Bay. There, a desperate struggle ensued, ending tragically as Hayes strangled Michael with a rope while Knowles mercilessly beat him. They left his body hanging in grim display, an act they believed was a statement of power. Local law enforcement, initially misdirected, suspected of a drug-related crime, but as the true motive surfaced, the FBI stepped in, unraveling the case by 1983. Henry Hayes and James Knowles were arrested, with Knowles swiftly confessing, resulting in a life sentence. Hayes, however, faced the ultimate penalty. Overruled by the judge to receive death instead of life imprisonment, he was executed in 1997, marking a rare instance of capital punishment for a white-on-black crime, the first since 1913. This story, dark and foreboding, served as a grim reminder of the shadows that once loomed, and the lingering specter of hatred that still challenges us to seek justice and understanding. Number 5. Thomas Terren. 1968. Thomas Terren found himself in a high-stakes showdown with the police, caught during a botched attempt to assassinate a key Jewish figure in Mississippi. The aftermath landed him a 30-year sentence behind bars, But that's where he stumbled upon a surprising chance for change. Back in those days, Terrence was enraged by the shifts he saw during the civil rights movement. His deep-seated hatred for African Americans and Jews drove him right into the Ku Klux Klan's embrace. Alongside Kathleen Ainsworth, who shared his venomous beliefs. Propelled by hate-filled rhetoric from extremist groups spread across Arizona, California, New Jersey, and beyond, the duo dove deep into a dark world of firearms and explosives training, plotting their next heinous act. Their grim agenda led to the bombing of congressional Beth Israel on May 28, 1968. A month later, they targeted Mayor Davidson, a prominent Jewish leader, aiming to plant a devastating bomb right under his bedroom. But fate had other plans. The FBI and local police had set up a trap, leading to a fierce shootout. Ainsworth died on the spot, while Terrence, severely injured, was captured and sentenced. Initially facing a potential death penalty for his crimes, Terrence's life was spared by a hesitant jury, leaving his fate in the hands of a judge who opted for a lengthy prison term instead. In 1969, a daring escape with fellow convicts led to another bloody encounter with the FBI, further complicating his already tumultuous life. During his years in maximum security, Terrence's worldview was rocked not just by extremist texts like Mein Kampf, but also by the philosophical depths of Plato and Aristotle, and eventually the transformative power of Scripture. This profound journey led him to renounce his racist ideologies and embrace Christianity. By 1976, with advocacy from a Jewish community leader who believed in his transformation, Terrence was released after serving 8 years. He went on to earn theological degrees and dedicated 25 years to the evangelical C.S. Lewis Institute in Washington, D.C. Now a thoughtful 77-year-old, Terrence speaks out against the surge of hate crimes and racism, advocating for peace and understanding across America. Number 4. Edgar Ray Killan. 1964, the shadows of prejudice darkened Mississippi when Edgar Ray Killan, a former sheriff candidate and sawmill owner, orchestrated a heinous crime. Known for his deep ties with the Ku Klux Klan and his role as a Klan recruiter, Killan was a man feared by many. He planned the murders of 3 civil rights activists, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, during the height of Freedom Summer, a bold initiative to register African American voters. These 3 young men, 1 black and 2 Jewish, were committed to breaking down racial barriers. Their mission tragically ended when they were arrested under false pretenses, ambushed, and brutally murdered. The details of their deaths are chilling. After being released from custody on a quiet night in June, they were pulled over, kidnapped, and shot at close range. While these horrors unfolded, Killan was crafting his alibi, attending a wake, seemingly uninvolved. However, an informant tipped off the FBI, leading to Killan's arrest along with 18 others. Despite the clear evidence, his initial trial in 1967 ended in a hung jury due to 1 juror's refusal to convict. Decades passed, but justice was not forgotten. In 2005, under immense community pressure, Killan was retried and convicted of manslaughter, receiving 3 consecutive 20-year sentences, 1 for each life taken. Starting his prison term at the age of 80, Killan struggled with the loss of control, often punished for smuggling tobacco and disrespecting prison staff, notably targeting female and African American officers. His defiance peaked in 2013 when he assaulted a corrections officer who was simply clearing out the old food trays from his cell. The confrontation escalated until the officer had to use a chemical spray to subdue him, leading to his solitary confinement. Killan died in prison on January 11, 2018, just shy of his 93rd birthday, marking a somber close to a chapter of American history scarred by racial violence and delayed justice. Number 3. Thomas Jordan Driver. April 2015, things took a dark turn when 3 men, identified as members of the KKK and former prison guards, were charged with a chilling plot. Their target, a former black inmate fresh out of prison on supervised release. This sinister plan stemmed from an intense brawl at a Department of Corrections facility in Lake Butler, where one of the guards, Thomas Jordan Driver, claimed the inmate bit him, possibly infecting him with AIDS and hepatitis. Fueled by rage and recounting 9 grueling months of blood tests, Driver conspired with his colleagues, David Elliott Moran and the fired guard Charles Thomas Newcomb, to bury the man 6 feet under. As the plot thickened, their vicious strategy was to kidnap the man from his Palatka home, with plans ranging from injecting him with insulin to a straightforward bullet if necessary. But here's where the twist comes in. The FBI was already a step ahead. An informant posing as an ally infiltrated their ranks, offering to help execute their grim plan. This informant was no ordinary player. He was equipped with a burner phone showcasing a doctored photo of the inmate, made to look like he'd been shot dead. The reaction was exactly what the FBI hoped for. The trio didn't hold back their gruesome satisfaction at seeing the fake death image.
A bullet to that guy in the chest. Satisfactory. Sounds good.
They thought they'd reached the end of their vendetta, but little did they know they were just falling deeper into the FBI's trap. Finally, the FBI swooped in, arresting the trio and charging them with conspiracy to commit murder. The aftermath shook the Department of Corrections, with officials, including Secretary Julie Jones, reinforcing a zero-tolerance stance against racism. She stressed that such actions by a few don't define the many honorable officers serving faithfully. The legal gears ground to a conclusion in 2017. Driver pled guilty, earning a lighter sentence of 4 years, while Moran and Newcomb, maintaining their innocence, faced the harsher reality of 12 years behind bars after being convicted of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The case closed, leaving a stark reminder of the shadows lurking within and the vigilant watch needed to keep them at bay. Number 2. Frazier Glenn Miller Jr. April 13, 2014, a chilling episode unfolded at the Overland Park Jewish Community Center in Kansas, where 3 lives were tragically taken. The man behind the attack, Frazier Glenn Miller Jr., was captured and later faced the ultimate penalty, death. Miller's journey into darkness began in North Carolina, where he left high school early to serve 20 years in the U.S. Army, including 2 tours in South Vietnam. His descent into extremist views took a sharp turn when he stumbled across the Thunderbolt, a racist newspaper. Within minutes of reading it, he claimed to have found his calling within the American white movement. By 1979, Miller had aligned himself with the National Socialist Party of America, a neo-Nazi group notorious for its violent acts. His extremist activities eventually led to his discharge from the Army. In 1980, he founded the Carolina Knights of the KKK, which evolved into the White Patriot Party, pushing a radical agenda aimed at establishing an all-white nation. April 6, 1987, marked by a bold declaration by Miller with his declaration of war against a wide array of groups, mailed to 5,000 recipients. His home later revealed an arsenal fit for a small army, explosives, rifles, and about half a ton of ammunition. His actions landed him 3 years in federal prison. Post-prison, Miller dove back into white supremacist activities, even attempting to sway political opinions through a racist newsletter. Despite little support, he remained a potent threat, a reality proven on that tragic day in 2014. After the shooting, Miller, suffering from advanced lung disease and believing he was near death, was quick to voice his twisted mission of targeting Jews, although his victims were Christians. His trial was punctuated with hateful outbursts, and even upon receiving the death sentence on November 15th, he left the world with a chilling promise from his past. Miller passed away on May 3, 2021, in prison, with officials citing natural causes as the preliminary cause of death. His story remains a grim reminder of the dangerous intersections of extremism and violence. Number 1. Larry Webster. On a hot summer day in Houston, Texas, a story unfolds that sounds almost like it's from a movie, but it's all too real. On July 19, 2000, a federal jury awarded a whopping $55,000 to an unlikely plaintiff, a member of the Ku Klux Klan, who had been severely beaten by black prisoners. Let's get to the scene. It's 1993, and 42-year-old Larry Webster, a known Klansman, is behind bars in a Galveston jail. The Ku Klux Klan, notorious for its dark legacy of racism and violence in the U.S., made Webster a marked man. Covered in Klan-related tattoos, Webster was a walking target in prison, a place where tensions run high and past affiliations can dictate your fate. Webster knew he was in danger. He begged to be placed in solitary for his safety, but the jail was too full, and his plea was ignored. Instead, he was thrown into a cell with black inmates. It didn't take long for them to identify him as a Klansman. A brutal beating followed, sending Webster to the ER with severe injuries. Taking matters into his own hands, Webster, representing himself, sued Galveston County for failing to protect him, given his notorious background. The trial was as intense as the beating itself. After 4 days in court, the jury ruled in his favor, awarding him $5,000 in actual damages and $50,000 in punitive damages. The court found 2 jail officials negligent for ignoring the clear danger Webster was in. The county's lawyer, Don Gleiwaski, after 17 years of undefeated cases, had to tip his hat to Webster's surprising legal skills. Despite this courtroom victory, Webster's freedom was short-lived. He was sentenced to 10 years for his original crimes of kidnapping and robbery. This twisted tale from the annals of American justice serves as a stark reminder. The shadows of the KKK don't just lurk in dark alleys or desolate fields, but can emerge anywhere, even behind the bars of a Texas jail.